Good evening. Welcome to my podcast entitled The Wright Experience. I'm Dr. William T. Wright Jr., the founder and host of this show. For the past 11 months or so, I've worked diligently to try to bring you the very best leaders that I could find to make sure that we get some more insight into good, sound leadership practices to make us all better. As time continues, it is the mission of my podcast to continue to stretch the envelope. I want this podcast to become a resource for future leaders to learn and grow from. Our initial focus has been on educational leaders, and last week you heard from an amazing leader in the world of healthcare information management. I'm committed to continuing to seek the very best leaders that I can find. Please don't hesitate to contact me with leaders whom you'd like to see appear on this podcast as well. By all means, when you hear something that you like, please comment, click like, and if you're viewing us via YouTube, please click like and comment to us so we'll know how you're feeling about what we're doing. And most importantly, we'd love for you to click that all-important subscribe button. Tonight is episode number 43 of The Wright Experience. My guest tonight is a veteran educator who has served for many years as a leader and in multiple states. I recently met him at a conference and immediately sought to have him on this show. My guest tonight is Dr. Dan Brigman, who is Superintendent of Avery County Schools in North Carolina. Dr. Dan Brigman is a seasoned leader with over 19 successful years of experience as a public school superintendent. He's a Navy veteran and is originally from Marshall, North Carolina. He's the youngest of 5 children raised by a single mother who taught in public schools for 34 years. Dr. Brigman has over 30 years of experience himself as an educator. He served as a teacher, a coach, an assistant principal, secondary curriculum director, and superintendent of schools in 4 states. Dr. Brigman's areas of notable success include an educational leadership, role of the superintendent, early literacy, school safety, and workforce development. Dr. Brigman has presented at the state and national levels on each of these educational topics. In addition to his professional responsibilities, he also serves on the Hyde County United Way Board of Directors, the Avery County Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, and has been an active Rotarian for over 20 years. Dr. Brigman received a technical degree in diesel vehicle maintenance from Asheville-Buncombe Technical College, his BA in Math and Social Studies from Myers Hill University, his MA in Educational Leadership from Tennessee Tech University, and his EDD from Trevecca Nazarene University. I hope I got that right. We'll find out in a minute. Dr. Brigman's hobbies include traveling, music. He plays drums professionally for over 35 years. He's done that. Scuba diving and hunting ginseng. He is married to Cindy, his wife of 28 years. Together, they have 4 children, ages 13 to 25. Dr. Dan Brigman and his family reside in Newland, North Carolina, where he continues to serve the students, parents, staff, administration, Board of Education as Superintendent of Schools. And at this time, I'd like to welcome to the Wright Experience my good friend, Dr. Dan Brigman. It's good to see you.
Dr. Wright, it's a pleasure to be with you tonight, and I commend you on a great platform, and thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. And
absolutely, and I'm looking behind you. You look like you're all cozied away, and it was 2 feet of snow, I heard. Is that right?
2 feet of snow. We're coming off of a snowstorm from last weekend that delivered 2 feet of snow right here where I reside. So I've had to utilize 4-wheel drives and shovels to get access to the main roads.
Well, we are anticipating about 3 to 6 inches here, and we'll be about in the same shape you all is as far as trying to dig out probably around here because we're not used to it. So
I'll send you a bag of ice melt. How's that?
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, look, we're certainly excited about having you on the show. Certainly proud and honored that you would have the opportunity to be here and on this show, and want to get right into the questions tonight if we can. Start off by talking to us a little bit, Dr. Brigman, if you will, about some of the wonderful things that you have going on in Avery County and Avery County School District, and some of the outstanding initiatives that you have going on there right now.
Sure. Even before the state adopted the letters program
Mm-hmm.
from the Mississippi model, I have a strong partnership and an ongoing relationship over the past 15 years with a group out of San Luis Obispo, California, and it's called the Linda Mood Bell Learning Processes to address literacy throughout grades K through 12. And right when I got here, we expedited that partnership, and we have experienced great results in terms of fixing literacy deficits with kids.
Mm-hmm.
For years in education, Dr. Wright, we've known who's struggling in our classrooms, but the magic formula is, how do we fix it? Teachers are great about identifying problems, but we've had very few resources to correct reading deficits. So we've seen great success through our Linda Mood Bell literacy processes. Added to that now will be the letters program that will help us with our whole group instruction model, with our Linda Mood Bell serving as that tier 2 and 3 intervention strategy for our kids. So literacy has been a big focus since my arrival, as well as workforce development. We're looking at giving our kids opportunities to certificates before they graduate, so they will graduate Avery County High School with something that's going to be marketable to give them that little bit of advantage if they're applying for college or any careers or the military when they leave us. So those are the big highlights, in addition to improving facilities. We are in the final months of completing a $20 million renovation at Avery County High School, and that should be finished hopefully by March 1st. And we just received approval for about a $954,000 improvement to our high school stadium. So I'm excited about all the newness and the renovations and updates that's going on throughout our county, in addition to the academic achievements and improvements that we've seen across the county.
Wonderful. And you've been in Avery now how many years?
A little over 2 years.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Yes.
Very good. But that was certainly not new to the superintendency. So
that's
fantastic.
Right. It's my 6th superintendency, so I've been blessed. I used to have a full head of hair, Dr. Wright. It's gone quickly over the past 20 years.
Yeah, you can't see it on the screen, and I'm glad of that. I'm thinning out a little bit myself. So anyway.
It goes with it.
Dr. Brigman, 19 successful years we read of experience as a public school superintendent. First of all, you are absolutely to be commended for that.
Well, thank you.
But to what do you attribute that success, and in what ways has the work of a superintendent, in your opinion, changed over those 19 years?
Well, 2 great questions. I don't think I could attribute one specific thing to my longevity as a superintendent, but I will say that I'm blessed with a stable family that's willing to get up and relocate when necessary. And we have moved quite a few times over the past 19 to 20 years. And I have a loving family, a loving wife that's very supportive of my career. And that makes my job easier, having that level of understanding, support, love, and commitment of my family to support me during my career in education. I guess the second piece of that is understanding the value of relationships. No matter how smart we are, where we get our degrees, or what our experience entails, it's all about working with boards of education, which oftentimes can be very challenging for even the seasoned superintendent, and understanding the community dynamics of the stakeholders that we serve. I think those are pretty much 3 key elements to my success, and that didn't come easy. I didn't understand as a 35-year-old superintendent the value of those board dynamics, relationships, and trying to get ahead of the curve on issues. I was pretty much a reactive superintendent first. Now I really strive to try to be proactive and anticipate responses, not only from my elected board, but from my stakeholders across the system. So those have been key elements, I think, to my longevity. Some of the challenges that I've seen occurring over the past 19 years is, of course, with the arrival of COVID and the pandemic, I never, prior to March 2020, Dr. Wright, never in my career would I have ever imagined churches and schools in our nation being closed for any disasters. We've survived hurricanes, floods, disasters, and who would have thought And I will never forget that moment when I received that call on March 14th, 2020. I know exactly where I was and what happened when I got that call. I sat in a Food Line parking lot in North Augusta, Georgia for 2 hours, strategizing with my team about how are we going to move forward. And so with that event that occurred March 2020, it changed the way we do business.
Right.
Prior to that, we were functioning and recognizing clocks and calendars in our daily, weekly, monthly, annual routines. As a superintendent, you knew in August what we needed to do. We had to make preparations for the arrival of those beautiful children, make sure that we had all of our hiring processes done, planning for budgets, and planning for opening of schools, making sure the lights came on, the air conditioning works, and those operational functions were pretty much rote memory. We knew what was going on. We knew what was going on around December of every year. Budget planning again, January budget meetings, March, letters of intent, hiring processes started. So in March of 2020, all of our habits, routines, clocks, and calendars got blown away, blown completely out of the water.
Right.
And we became functioning day by day, hour by hour, in partnership with entities that we had never before had to hold hands and partner with, such as the Department of Health and Human Services, our local health departments. We're making decisions that directly impacted our daily operations, our staffing in our schools, our transportation departments. So it has been a challenge over the past almost 2 years. I can't believe it's nearly 2 years now that we were shut down, but it has totally changed the face of public schools as we know it and put more players at the table to call shots in terms of our daily operations, which it adds to the frustration and the unknown. And so I think we have a constant changing landscape now of governance and response to the crisis that we've been enduring. And I call it a crisis because anytime kids can't walk into our doors and access quality education and meals every day, that creates another crisis in itself. That social, emotional, and physical well-being crisis that we're now seeing across our nation.
Amen. Amen. That's exactly right. And it's been certainly a learning 2 years, but also there have been some challenges that have been tough, to say the least.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So currently, in my opinion, at least, we're battling some of the toughest times that public schools have faced, and we've kind of talked about that already. But with specific regard to recruiting and retaining employees, and y'all might not have that problem in Avery, but
we do. Yes,
I'm sure everybody does. And so what steps should we take to place ourselves in a better situation to do so, to recruit and retain employees?
Well, that is a great question, and I wish I had a very concrete answer. My answer's aligned with opinion. I think that we are now seeing the time in which it is a candidate's marketplace.
That's right.
Having two major vacancies right now in my system that I have no applicants for. One of those being a chief finance officer. I do have some applicants, but none of those applicants qualify under the state's requirements now for chief finance officer. And, there's not many other positions in our system that carry that much importance and weight as counting our pennies and keeping the superintendent out of jail. That's a very important job. And so we're having to seek a consulting firm to help us. We have sought HIL consultants. They've came to the table and they're doing a phenomenal job giving support during this transition. But I think it's a new day because of the lack of employees. We are seeing a labor shortage, and we talked about this years ago, but I think the pandemic or the COVID crisis has sped that up.
Right.
We knew just because of the birth rates and the baby boomers cycling out, we were going to have an employment gap, an employment resource gap. And I think it got here quicker than we anticipated. Now, a lot of things are being blamed on COVID, but it was in the pipeline in forecasts years ago. So I think it compounded to the people retiring early because of COVID. Early retirements, people who could go out have gone out, creating a much greater dilemma and crisis than we anticipated in terms of our employee base or application base. it's slowed down the process of filling positions because of the lack of applicants.
Right, right, and we're in some places we're almost at critical mass now in terms of trying to
Absolutely.
keep our buildings open and supplying them, of course, with quality employees.
And
Everybody wants quality.
exactly. And
So,
to add to the challenges of seeking quality applicants is the housing market, the
that's right.
housing issues that we're dealing with. Lack of housing in our county has really played a big part in people being able to consider relocating here. And we anticipated that, but we didn't know it was going to hit us so hard. The real estate market over the past 2 years in our county has been berserk. It has been crazy. And I don't know if it's that way in your area down on the eastern side of the state.
Oh yeah,
It's been crazy here.
housing prices have definitely gone up, and the availability is not all that great either. So
Right.
absolutely, yeah.
That's right.
So Dr. Brigman, in your career as superintendent, what have you been most proud of during your years?
I guess my primary point of being proud is being able to address literacy deficits in kids,
Sure.
K-12, teaching kids how to read.
Mm-hmm.
I had that moment in my career, and it was in my first superintendency. I was invited to Oak Ridge, Tennessee, by Scott Niswonger, who was the founder of Land Air Corporation, and he is now over the Niswonger Foundation, who contributes a lot of financial resources to public schools in East Tennessee, throughout the state of Tennessee, and I think even southwestern Virginia and some areas of western North Carolina. He invited major corporate leaders and just a few select superintendents to a CEO summit in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And there was a gentleman there presenting to this group of leaders, and I was fortunate to be there in that crowd. And a statistic was shared with the crowd that was precisely this: the state of Tennessee used third grade reading failure rates to determine the number of prison beds needed within 20 years. It was a leading indicator within their strategic planning process for the Department of Corrections. That was a pivotal moment, not only in my career, but my life. My whole charge and rationale for being an educational leader took an about face and a turn at that point in time. And I have been on a quest to try to impact the prison system and shut the prisons down by teaching children how to read.
Yeah.
And it's either pay it up front, invest in literacy in public schools and our educational system, or we pay it a lot more on the other end.
Right.
By kids leaving us, not being prepared and not being able to read. And also, research shows if a kid is not reading on or around grade level by the time they enter middle school, chances of them graduating are significantly lower. So we have a small window of time to catch them. So that has been my mission as a superintendent, and I can tout some great success through some partnerships over the past 19 years of addressing the literacy issues that plague our school system and our society.
And that's going to be ever so important with the loss of face time, because I'm careful not to say, all this significant learning loss. We've just lost seat face time. Kids have been learning the whole time they've been out. It's just the learning's been a little bit different. So
well, and if you don't have it, you can't lose it, and they've not had access to it.
That's right.
So
That's exactly right.
We're having to recover time.
That's right.
And that's what we're charged with. I agree.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, Dr. Brigman, we read and learned tonight that you are a Navy veteran, and thank you for your service that you gave to the country. How did your experience as a Navy veteran, in your opinion, prepare you for educational leadership?
It had a significant impact on my decisions to enter public schools and enter education as a profession. I saw firsthand the difference between someone with a degree and someone without a degree. I was enlisted in the Navy, so I was taking those orders instead of giving orders. And I'll never forget that moment when we were coming into port we had been doing some joint drug operations and patrols with the Coast Guard, and we were coming into Puerto Rico, and we had just a limited amount of time of liberty, so we were rushing to get all of our quarters and all of our duty stations cleaned up. And the engineers were shorthanded, and my division officer and the division officer over the engineering department were good friends. So we were told to go help them finish up and get port ready. So I was underneath the gas turbines with rags cleaning up oil off the deck. And I looked up at the ladder well, and there was this gentleman up there, an officer, screaming orders at us while we were working to clean up. And I just leaned back and I thought, okay, now what's the difference? What makes the difference in him up there directing and me down here receiving? And it was that 4-year degree. And at that point in time, I thought, well, if he can get one, I can get one.
Right.
So
Right.
I remember that moment. It's etched in my memory, but I saw firsthand it's the best project-based learning I've ever gone through, to see the reality and the benefits of continuing your education versus status quo and remaining as you are. So I determined at that point in time I wanted to get my degree. My mother, having been an educator, and my teaching of coursework for navigation coursework, damage control, and other areas of military training, I was a teacher on the ship. And so I had the pleasure of teaching my shipmates in various areas and aspects, and I fell in love with teaching. So when I was in my final months of active military duty, I enrolled in Mars Hill College and went from the brow to the classroom, and was very fortunate to have had that military experience to help me not only gain that leadership experience and realization of, I'm going to have to get my degree, but they also provided tremendous financial support that allowed me to access my 4-year degree through Mars Hill through that Montgomery GI Bill.
So the moral of that story, in my opinion, is no matter where you are, life will teach you lessons, right?
Absolutely.
You got to listen and react. That's
School
right.
of hard knocks. Absolutely. Life delivered.
Exactly
And oftentimes the good Lord above puts us in those challenging situations for us to see open doors. It may take that storm to show us a door, but those storms are there for a purpose.
There you go. Dr. Brigman, more and more schools nowadays are seeing increased issues due to mental health. Y'all might not have that problem at Avery, but how do we continue to improve our ability to address those concerns, in your opinion?
Well, and as you know, having been in education, the many years you have devoted your life to, we had mental health issues, and the mental health crisis we had existed prior to the pandemic. This has compounded things. First of all is recognizing that the mental health challenges are not limited to our students. We have employees and staff members who are really struggling. We're recovering from the shutdown and the rebranding of education in terms of adding the virtual model. We are natural beings of interaction. We grow from interaction with each other. And when that's cut off, there's a price to pay for that. And so number one is realizing who suffers from these social emotional challenges. It's everybody in our buildings, students, staff members, and the families that our kids go home to. It's not limited to just students, but we can only do what we have the capacity to do in terms of addressing this issue. Staffing is a big challenge. Finding the mental health staff or professionals to address these needs, this is overwhelming because we do not have the human resources. The state may say, okay, we're going to give you additional funds to hire a mental health expert. When you make a blanket statement for 115 school systems, not counting the charter schools, okay, go out and find mental health professionals. There's probably not 115 graduates across the state every year who are getting this certificate. So we're all fighting over the same people, and it boils down to resources, or what can you pay them, or what can you do in terms of competing with that private marketplace. And we're competing with the private marketplace for these specific career professionals. And we just don't have the money in public education to pay for these people that need to come in and provide this essential support for our students. So it's an ongoing challenge for us addressing the social and emotional well-being. But there's an approach we have right within our fingertips that will help us more than anything. It's for all of our employees in public schools to realize the importance of relationships.
That's right.
My expectation is for every adult in that school, whichever school it may be in Avery County, to identify at least one young person and start building a close personal relationship, professional, close personal relationship with that young person. And that there are mutual benefits from that. It gives that staff member a greater sense of purpose of coming to work every day. And it allows that young person to connect to that one adult in that building that they know cares about him or her. That's priceless. And I'm a firm believer in the power of that relationship. And that's a non-negotiable. And we're trying to work that into our daily operations with some steps forward. I've seen some success, but it takes time.
And it's all about, as I said to a group of folks this weekend, every single person, grown or child, wants to feel like they matter to somebody.
Most definitely.
That's really the bottom line. Sure is.
And it's common sense. It doesn't take any money. It doesn't cost anything.
That's right.
It may take a little bit of time and maybe a small block of time in a school day to make that happen.
And we've got plenty of that, don't we?
Absolutely. And therefore, our coaches serve a vital role. And coaches help build teams and pull kids in to belonging to that specific athletic event or extracurricular activity. And those are as important as the academic areas. And so it's going to take us all working collectively to build those relationships with our students and our families.
That's right. So speaking of extracurricular, you kind of rolled me right into my next question here. I'm glad I got your bio ahead of time because I learned that you, like me, are a musician, except you're a professional. I just get the privilege of some folks letting me play a piano once a month at a church, a little small church. So I'm not a professional, but you are. How has that affected or impacted your work as an educational leader, being a musician?
That's the music and the arts programs are often dropout prevention programs for our young people. It was
absolutely.
Band, high school band kept me engaged. It kept me busy on Friday nights and during the holidays through jazz performances. By the way, my next dream is to learn how to play the piano, so I may be leaning on you, sir. But you can't separate the arts, the music, and those programs that help us capture all the kids. If it weren't for Tex Overby and my friends in the band program at Madison High School, I would have probably dropped out. And it's been a lifelong skill and hobby that I've leaned on as therapy and my outlet. And I have really appreciated that skill. It's not only made some money on the side over the years past, but it's also helped me learn how to work as a unit, as a team, as a music body to adjust to the audience and to perform. And it's helped me also, I think, build a skill of being out in front of people and not being afraid when I see 2,000 people sitting in front of me. And so I've gained a lot of strengths out of it. And also it has been an outlet for me. I really get into that zone and love sitting down behind that kit, working with fellow musicians. And it is an outlet for me that I will always cherish. And I'm blessed to have had that God-given talent. I'm not the best, but I do my best and try to fit in with any venue and any genre. I've
got to hear that now. You got me intrigued for sure.
And I've played in church for many years too. As a matter of fact, several Baptist churches have allowed me to set in and play. And as a matter of fact, I played gospel music with a group out of Knoxville, Tennessee. When my wife and I first got married, we had the big bus and traveled quite frequently. It was a band called the Unity Sounds, and it was Southern gospel. And we did that for about 2 years, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Okay. All right. We're multifaceted in the superintendency for sure. How about that? So, Dr. Brigman, if a brand new leader in their first leadership role contacted you for some sound advice, what are some things you'd tell them?
I guess the first three things that come to mind is that relationship word. We're about relationships. We can't
Right.
work in isolation. Our tenure depends on that board we report to that hires us as superintendents.
Absolutely.
Never unpack all your boxes because that tide of change is constant. And when you put on that name tag as a leader, you're not going to make everybody happy when you're doing your job right. If you're doing what's right in the best interest of kids, you're going to go against the grain a lot of times. And I can say I try to do what's right in every decision I make. It's not often been popular, but if you do what's right in the best interest of kids and the system, you can sleep well at night. And I guess that third piece to that is understanding your weaknesses. Nobody's perfect. There was only one perfect man walked the face of the earth, and look what we did. Nobody's perfect. Don't be afraid to admit when you're wrong and redirect your actions. Admit when you're wrong, redirect your actions. People will give you grace. Oftentimes, trying to hide the issue and the mistake results in greater consequences than the actual mistake itself. I've made plenty of mistakes as a principal, as a superintendent, and as a leader, but thankfully I've had some grace cast upon me by those in which I report to or work with. And so it's being flexible. I'll add one to it. We have the day of demands that are like no other placed on educational leaders. Who would have thought that the controversies at board meetings over something as simple as a face mask would erupt in disgruntled communities, superintendent turnover, board resignations. So being flexible is key as well. And you can't take everything personal.
That's right.
Dr. Wright, if I took things personal, I wouldn't sleep a wink at night. So I have to separate my professional realm, people who view me as superintendent, from my role here as dad and my role as husband. I'm human too. We're all human. And we have to close the office door and open the household door. You can't mix the two.
That's right. I like that one. I like that one. I'm going to go back and put that in my notebook, brother. I'm going to steal that one from you. That's a good one.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So, Dr. Brigman, was anything else that I've left off that you'd like to share with the audience that I might have missed?
No, I highly encourage anyone who listens to this and is contemplating educational leadership, come on, take that chance. My experience will be completely different from yours, which will be completely different from theirs. Everyone has their own personal journey. We work in different locations with different people under different circumstances, but you won't know until you step in. We have a shortage of leaders now, especially in the principalship and superintendency. So I highly encourage people who feel like that they have that intrinsic ability and that capacity and determination to step into those roles to do it. There's support out there. You and I and our dialogue is a true example of the camaraderie among the superintendents. And I highly encourage people to get in there, find somebody to serve as a mentor and a resource for them to help them be successful. We don't go about this journey alone. We're not expected to. And I can attribute my tenure and my journey, the successes and the failures, to those people that I lean on very closely as those true mentors. They have guided me, and you can't do it alone. You have to have that mentor support.
Absolutely. Dr. Brigman, if you'll hold on with me for a minute, we'll come back and close the show.
Absolutely.
Next month, the Wright Experience will be celebrating its 1-year anniversary. I'm so proud to state that we have over 500 active followers and many more that have viewed our podcast at one point or another. I ask that you help me continue to spread the word about the work that we're doing. I'm also extremely grateful for the amazing responses that I've received. Please, by all means, keep those coming. January 27th of 2022, which is next Thursday, my guest will be Mr. Keith Sutton. Mr. Sutton is the new superintendent of Warren County Schools in North Carolina. Mr. Sutton also previously served for many years as a Board of Education member, as well as the board chair in Wake County Schools in North Carolina. I look forward to talking with him about the unique perspective he brings to the superintendency, having served first as a board member and now as a superintendent. A lot of times that happens the other way around. So it's going to be interesting to get a chance to talk with him about the wonderful things he's got going on in his district as well. This show is all about continuing to bring you the very best leaders that we can find to talk with you so that we all can grow and learn and get better. Dr. Brigman, my friend, I want to thank you very much for being my guest. With all that snow and relaxation, that's a joke. It's never relaxing being a superintendent, but so much. But I thank you for taking your time out to be a part of the show. And I want you to know that I admire and respect your leadership, and going to be pricking your brain about some literacy initiatives and things of that nature moving forward. But I appreciate your willingness to be a part of the Wright Experience. And certainly this platform is open to you at any time you want to come back and be a part of it. And I want to thank you for being here.
I greatly appreciate this opportunity. I've gained a lot out of this. You've taught me a lot just through observing you operate on this platform, and I'm going to steal some of your ideas and some of your approaches. I think this is amazing. Keep up the great job. Keep focusing on leadership in various organizations because we need this focus because we have a shortage. But I appreciate this. It's been an honor to be with you tonight, and God bless you. Stay safe during that snow and ice coming your way.
Thank you very much. And to the Wright Experience audience, thank you for watching.